Hello and welcome back to the SuperCoach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Savage, the coach of the Savage Turbos.
Yeah, like it's just, yeah.
I have changed my name from the Dallas Tunkins. Personally,
if you won, would you want that name?
Nah. Dallas, it just sounds a bit too hillbilly for some reason. Yeah, so it is the Savage Turbos. Official statement, it's the Savage Turbos. I feel good about it. Back to the OG style. Jamin Salmons was a 1 year plug. The week got a dog. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with how it went last year. But today, I'm joined by the 2021 SuperCoach champion, Tim Moody, with the Vili Army, who you're not going to change your name ever.
No. Pretty fired up, man. It's getting a lot closer. I'm sort of starting to feel like I'm getting a lot more locked into place, but they just can't fit everything in still. There's a sacrifice that needs to be made in my team, but I'm not going to stress about it now. I'm just going to let it naturally evolve over the next few weeks. So.
It feels like a lot of the preseason has played out. Like, I know at the start of the preseason, it feels like there's a long drag until the start of the season, and you're not even thinking about trials, but trials are about to come up. And we're not far from that. We're pretty much at the end of the preseason, just about, because there is footy this weekend. The SportShedTV charity match, February 3rd. The live stream link is out now. It will be in the description. It is in our Instagram bio on the SC Experience. You can buy that for $5, which I'm sure you're tuning in, Timmy.
Yeah, I'll be watching that around in Gladstone with a few mates and a few cans. Can't guarantee we'll be like glanced in, but we'll have it there in the background. Also wanted to say, I've actually heard that there's going to be a selector down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's going to be a selector down there. So like the possible, sort of train and trial NRL squad option there. Apparently there's someone that's been like watching you at training.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because at training, I feel a bit out of my depth at training. I filled in for Jake's OzTag team last Wednesday, and that brought me back to my top old self. Bottom division OzTag team, winless. They got to win. And one of Jake's mates who listens to this show, shout out Dean, he was hyping me up big time. He was like, "You're wasted in the centres," and I'm like, there's some pretty good footy players that are playing on this side, so I'm very excited for this weekend, and we'll see what happens. I think I was pretty much $1 to score in my own head. I reckon I've pushed out to about $1.20, I reckon. So there's a bit of doubt there. Just depends on how the opposition...
It turns out the opposition also hadn't had a win for the season and were down 3 players.
That's probably true. The opposition, Ronald McDonald House, they are a load of shit as well. So tune into that.
The team, not the charity. The charity is doing great things and has been for years.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very keen. So tune into the live stream. It's a pretty good live stream link. You'll be able to see everything on the field. But if not, it's going to be a good day out there.
Any chance of getting you mic'd up?
Well, yes, there is a chance. I just need a videographer to...
Someone will do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. There's a couple of guys getting mic'd up there. So I'll
go for it.
I'll see what I can do over the next couple of days. But YouTube. So last week we put the call out to hit 1,500 by the end of the week. We're on 1,433. We hit 1,552. So we got 119 subscribers in a week. We're aiming for 1,650 by next week, so a bit less than 119, but 2K by the start of the season would be great, and we're definitely on track to get there. So head over to the SuperCoach Experience on YouTube if you haven't yet. Timmy, let's talk some SuperCoach. We're here for the Halfback and 5/8 podcast. At the start of it, before we even did any research, we were thinking, maybe it could go over 2 podcasts, but I think there's a clear-cut bunch of options, and then the rest are kind of not really negotiable at this stage.
Yeah, probably. Like, there's the ones that kind of stand out for me, especially for the main starting half and 5/8 in my side. I'm pretty happy with my 5/8 backup guy as well. I'm not so sure about the backup halfback. But, yeah, the thought is the others look like they're sort of priced at the value they're at. We can touch on a few of them. But I feel like one of them that we're not, that we might brush over a little bit could sort of exceed expectations, but it's hard to kind of pick who that is. I've looked into it and there's no one really standing out.
Yeah, it's hard to pick because you could look deep into these guys and try and look for something, but someone always jumps out completely out of nowhere.
Has like a year, like a Tom Dearden year to start the year a couple of years back, or...
Yeah, but what we'll start off with the halfbacks. Firstly, I just want to know who your... should I say? Yeah, who are your halfbacks at the moment?
At the moment, Hines and Trindle, but I'm not sure about Trindle. So
they're my pair at the moment, mainly because I had Jaden Sullivan in there. I'm not super confident in putting someone like Jaden.
Half?
Yeah, in halfback.
Oh, Jaden Sullivan. Yep.
I'm not.
I get him and Jaden Campbell mixed up all the time, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty...
Just by name.
Yeah. Oh, Jaden Campbell, yeah. So, yeah, I've got Trindle in there at the moment, but we'll definitely discuss how it goes. Let's go over our top 3 halfback options. We'll kick it off with Nicho Hynes. Is he the number one halfback, in your opinion, to start the season with?
Hands down, just based on just a few little bits that I've dug up. So, it's him and Nath that are the two best, like that, at any point in the year, I think. But to start the year, I like Nicho ahead of him. Averaged 95 last year, whereas we can get to clear, but he averaged 89. Average for Nicho last 2022, 85.8. Now, I've got his first 6 games. He's playing the Wars, the Dogs, the Tigers, the Raiders. There's a bye. And then the Bunnies, a little bit of a harder one. But there's 4 sort of decentish games there. The Wars you might consider not a walk in the park. But he averaged against the Wars is 100 points.
Mate, you've taken my stats. You said you were doing something else.
Okay, if you want to touch on that, that's
this
fine.
This is what I was doing. You can't just steal my thunder.
That's fine. I've taken notes as well, but that's fine. If you want to touch on that, we can leave that. So my point is...
so you weren't looking at the draw, were you? You were looking at something else.
I was looking at draw. I always look at the draw for the first 6 rounds. So you're looking at
their high scores or something like that?
I've looked at the average for halfbacks, and I've looked at the average and the high their last performance against the club for 5/8.
Yeah.
So I started delving a little bit further into 5/8. But look, the main difference is Nicho started with a bang last year, big scores compared to Nath's last year. Was sort of in the 60s. There was a couple 80s, 70s sort of scores there as well for Nath, but I just think Nicho hits the ground running, easier draw. Nath's got a harder draw, so if you can only have one, Nicho stands out for me. I do have, he has also got 9 tons in 20 games last year.
Yeah,
huge.
We know Nicho's capability. I think with Nicho, the difference between him and Cleary at the start of the season last year, Nicho actually was injured for the first 3 weeks, so he came in round 4, so maybe that is skewed a bit, that start of the season, just because teams were a bit like they'll for their 4th week going.
I think his defences and stuff like that should be a little bit, and the team should be gelled a little bit more. So he still opened a can of whoop ass. Like,
yeah, he did. Defense,
I don't think you read too much into it.
Defence with teams should be good in round 4, but more so the Sharks were better and the forwards were flowing a lot better for the Sharks. So he came into a team that was ready to go.
But then you could argue that every other team that was playing in round 4 also had that same benefit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I also agree with that. But Nicho Hynes is so far above the rest that he comes into two sides who are doing well. He can start good regardless. Like, that's my point. So yeah, with him, he obviously averages 101 against the Warriors. He kills it against Warriors. 85 against the Bulldogs, 98 against the Tigers, and 78 against Canberra. So he averages 90.4 with his first 4 opponents. So over the first 4 rounds, I wouldn't say you should expect a 90.4 average, but he averages that against them opponents, whereas all these other guys are significantly lower. The only issue is he does have a bye in round 5. If you don't have anything else to say on...
I don't think that's an issue that he has a bye in round 5. Love it.
It's not.
I think last year when he returned in round 4, he had a bye in round 5. So he only got 1 game before he had a bye. And he got 180 in that game. So you wouldn't sort of go, I got a bye, I'll just wait till after the bye.
Yeah, that's true. No, I wouldn't advise against starting against him just because he has the bye. But the fact that he does have a bye, I think you can work out a strategy here going. So Nathan Cleary starts off at 912,000, plays Melbourne, Parramatta, Broncos and the Roosters in the first 4, and then Manly. So I'm going off his first 5, whereas Nico's first 5 ends on a bye. Averages 61 against Melbourne, which is pretty low. 59 against Parramatta, 85 against the Broncos, and 79 against the Roosters. 85 against Manly, so 71 average in the first 5. Average his first 4 is 71 and 73.8 in his first 5. So significantly lower than Nico's average against these guys. So personally, in my opinion, you start with Nico and potentially afterwards aim at getting Cleary in. So you've got that backup half to cover.
I think we're all going to want to do it pretty soon too, because as soon as he gets that one big score, it's going to feel like at any ton, I feel like we're going to be like, I kind of need him now.
Yeah.
If Nico's still banging out tons and matching it, you'll feel fine enough not having him. But for those people that are starting with both, I think we might start to get a bit panicky with just the one of them.
A lot of people are doing it too.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people are doing it too.
And I haven't even considered it, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess you could just take, like I'm starting with 2 pretty decent high-priced fullbacks. So you could take it from there or...
Why are you not starting with Cleary? What is your reasoning?
Just because of the last year factor too. If he starts real mad, then, I'll probably just have to accept it and get him in the next couple of weeks. It probably can't be round 2. I don't think it'd be that easy. But, yeah, he's what did he score? Like 53 last year against the Broncos to start the year, then a 40 against the Bunnies, 77 against the Eels. You'd be pretty much disappointed with all those scores, especially if you've got your captain on him for 77 or even that. You'd be like, yeah, I'll take it. But yeah, for me, I'm just like looking at Nico's scores or like 185, 98. I know you can't copy and paste it, but I'm just sort of going off.
You've got to go off past performances. So last year, Cleary's first 3 games, 53, 40. He had a bye and then 77. So it doesn't seem like, I don't know what he would have scored in that first week, but it doesn't seem like it's a real thing for him. When he came back from injury in 2022, 34, 57, but then 2 big tons, 151, 158. Similar to 2023, where he kicked it off with 2 tons straight after that. 2021, he started with 103 and 88. The difference was 2021, it was a year after a loss to Melbourne.
Also, that new attacking sort of style was in there as well, so you could almost add 10 points to that. Most good attacking players' averages jumped up quite a fair bit. Yeah. You can even see that Nathan Cleary's average in 21 is 108 compared to the year before was 80, and the year after that was 82.
That's true. The attacking style of footy, and also what I was trying to get at is 2020 they lost the grand final, so I think they were blessed with a bit of an easier draw, and the fact that they're not the hunted anymore, they weren't the hunted back then. They started with the Cowboys, the Bulldogs, Melbourne, and the Manly, and then Canberra and Broncos. So that's a decent draw considering. Whereas
I think he's certainly capable of just coming out and going, try assist, and I'll score one. But
he is in the grand final game against the Broncos.
I'm not going to feel like an idiot if he does because I can't.
In the grand final game against the Broncos,
go on talk.
He scored 141 SuperCoach points, and that was against second best team in the competition. So. He's got Melbourne, Parramatta, Broncos, Roosters. What would you judge that as? Easy or... It's not easy, but I think he can still score well, at least against Parramatta, Broncos and Roosters. Melbourne, I'm not so sure.
They're just harder games compared to some of the opponents that he would face later on. Like, Eels can be pretty decent. Like, they've got the wood over Penrith. They always seem to be very competitive against us. The Broncos are going to want to turn up for that, so that's grand final rematch. The Storm... They start the year very well, so starting against them, it's going to be fucking heaps hard to start for the Panthers.
They haven't lost a round 1 game in 12 years or something.
It's even longer, maybe 13 now.
They'll be wanting to make sure that they keep that up, and his average against the Storm is 60, and average against Parramatta is 59, and then significantly jumps after that. But these are by far the teams that he averages the lowest against, so I think it's more than viable to start without Cleary. And I know we've said we're starting with Trindle, but
it's not because we prefer Trindle over
no,
Cleary.
no. But there's other options we've got to look at. So if you're not going with the Nico Hines Nathan Cleary combination, we've got to look at the next guy. And this is the guy that I can see myself potentially starting with. And he's my third option at halfback, who I think, Mitchell Moses. A draw of the Bulldogs, Penrith, Manly and Tigers. Pretty friendly draw. Averages 60.75 against all four teams. Now, it's funny how we say that Cleary significantly averages less against the teams he's versing in the first two rounds. And that's 60 points as it is. It's crazy how I look at Mitch Moses and he averages 60 against these sides and I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Whereas Cleary averages 60 against the first two sides. And I'm thinking, it's a bit lower than what he's used to. I think it's because of the price point. So Cleary is 912,000. Mitch Moses is just a tick under 700,000. With that draw, with the Bulldogs, he's got the potential to go large. Penrith, Eels seem to have the knack over Penrith. Manly and Tigers defensively are a bit suspect sometimes. But Mitch Moses, I'm really keen to start with. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I just don't think I could fit that in to my budget if I was going to. I think I'd just try spend up, that's almost 300k more than what Trindle is, and I'm sort of looking at that sort of 400k price range. If I was to entertain the idea of bringing someone like Mitchell Moses as my second guy to Nico to start the year, I'd have to completely change the figuration of the balance on my side, and that's not where I'm at the moment. So, yeah, I don't know. For me, he is basically 700k. His average over the last few years, 68, 70, 58, 54. He's good in games. You've got to pick him up for those games when he is good, though, and other times they can be really nasty scores. So he's only got 4 tons last season in 19 games. Compare that to a Nico or... because he's sort of edging on that price up to that way. And 9 games under 60 in 19 games. So just a bit much for me, 700 to be copping some of those 9 of 19 scores under 60 to start at 700k. I like the Dogs matchup to start off, and he might have a big game there and could look like I might get in, but then it's going to be Penrith the next week. So I don't like him to start.
The thing I've always had an issue with Moses is his floor. His floor has always been quite suspect, but last year in 80-minute games, he had an injured game where he scored 11, but he scored a 17-1 game, which was pretty crap. A 34. He scored a 16 in round 1 last year. But apart from that, his lowest score is 41, 39. It's still pretty low, but the fact that the floor for him isn't quite an issue for him. He's scoring, more often than not, he's scoring bigger scores. And I like that from Mitch Moses, the goal kicking. But can you do it if you're starting with Dylan Brown? Especially if the Eels don't start any well. I'm very keen on Mitch Moses, but there are a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
Next person, who do you think is the next option? Do you think they're the top 3?
Well, I mean, you could. I don't think you can completely disregard SJ. I mean, he's not for me. I like the fact that he has goal kicking. I know Moses does too. He's a bit more, but I just felt like I'd kind of put him on par. SJ, I'd kind of put them on par actually. So yeah, probably not for me at that price. It's nearly 800k. DCE's quite expensive as well. Not for me. Kind of. Jerome Hughes, I don't mind.
Just before you move on, I do want to touch on SJ because I completely wrote him off. But then I looked into the numbers and I'm like, I think you've got to look a bit deeper into him. So he is 793,000. I think the fact that he is that much...
You'd almost just pay an extra K for clearing.
Yeah, exactly.
100k.
But with his draw of the Sharks, Melbourne, Canberra, and Newcastle in the first 4, here are his scores last year versus these teams. Against the Sharks, 117 and 135. Against Melbourne, he scored 42. Canberra, 119 and 74. Newcastle, 74 and 85. So against them 4 teams, he played 9 matches. He averaged near 100.
Yeah, I think you just got to ask you, like, if you're getting him in your side because of points or for cash generation, and if you're getting him, you're probably getting him more for points. I just think I just couldn't go with that balance. It's so, like, why not have just Nico? I know he's getting good scores.
But how much can a year change? Like, if he's averaging that well against these teams, I know
it's probably still do it, but then I'd just pay up for Cleary, knowing that he could do it easier.
I agree, but we all understand how much 120k is useful for your side. I agree that I think you just bite the bullet and get Cleary, but there is a world where Sean Johnson holds his price and Cleary drops in price, and by the time Sean Johnson has a bit of a tougher run, you just swap the two.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, people could be looking at those sort of more expensive guys to partner either Nico or Cleary, or they could be starting with one of these guys as their best halfback potentially, with other balances going on. I don't know. Just for my breakup, I just can't. I think you start with the best 2, or you start with one of them and midi,
someone
or
who has value.
Guy. Yeah, that's just where I'm at. So looking at these guys, I just can't fit them into a starting side.
A lot of these guys, I think we will be talking about at some point in the season.
100%, we'll be talking about all of them.
Like Sam Walker has a draw of Broncos, Manly, Souths, Penrith. For someone who relies on attacking stats, that draw is awful. 50, 59, 47, 48 he averages against all them sides. So I don't think you could go near Sam Walker to start the season. Although I am very keen on Sam Walker this year. I think he's going to have a nice year. Jerome Hughes is actually pretty interesting. So plays Penrith, Warriors, Newcastle and Broncos. He averages 43 against Penrith, but then he averages 69 versus the Warriors, 87 against Newcastle and 58 against Broncos. Oh no, I got that mixed up. Sorry. Averages 60... sorry. I fucked that up so bad. Averages 43 against Penrith and his high score is 69. So I think for that round 1 matchup, you will not be targeting him. Warriors, he averages 87. Newcastle, he averages 58. And Broncos, 74. So against the first 4 sides, Jerome Hughes actually averages very well. And putting him next to Moses is a very similar price. Based on that, Jerome Hughes is a better option. And you kind of get that breakup of not having another Parramatta half.
Yeah. And I've got a good feeling. Like, I think Melbourne are always good starters, and I like Hughes. I know he doesn't have the kicking, which takes away from him, but I think he lifts that in. He has got base. He takes more sort of runs, I think, where he actually does take the ball and doesn't let go of the ball as much. He's got, last year, he's got 8 games under 60 and 9 games over 75. That's like over a full year. That's pretty solid. And only 8 of them are under 60. 3 tons. I think he's decent enough, but I still think he's in that price point where couldn't whack him in.
Yeah, I agree. I think all these guys, except like...
pretty priced at where they're...
Yeah, even though Mitch Moses there's a lot of red flags, it's just a gut feel thing that he's the guy I'm probably most comfortable starting with in that price bracket, but I agree, you can't probably touch near them. Matt Burton, I think with all the Bulldogs recruits, he could be an interesting one. I think he probably loses the goal kicking to Crichton though, so I think that's a bit of a watch there, especially in the trials. So he's probably priced a bit higher than what he produced last year, but he's also got more of a ceiling than what he produced last year. So that's a big watch. Luke Brooks at 560. I don't see him averaging much more than 55, so I don't think there's value there, but if you do want someone around that price that can hold their value, I don't mind it.
Yeah, he's got the dual halfback 5'8", which is handy. You could, if one's not working out, and you could move him up to the other if you do want to keep him or whatever. Yeah, I don't hate it. I think that's getting more closer to a price where you could feel more okay about having as your second guy. The new club is an exciting factor, new role, like a fresh...
it just feels
Brooks.
like I can just picture it here where the DCE gets the ball after getting it from Jake, and then DCE throws it out the back, and Luke Brooks has three options to run, to go short to his back row, or at the back to Tommy. And I just see him benefiting so much from being in that position 9 times out of 10 and getting an attacking stat from it. So what I like about Brooks is I think there are a lot of attacking stats on offer this year for him. But, yeah, I think it's not my tactic early on to just hold value till I go to Cleary.
Yeah.
I think I want a bit of value in that
I noticed
spot.
the back end of last year that his running game, like, he really increased the amount of runs he was taking. And I reckon you'll have that sort of roll over here, especially with, like, Cherry being a dominant halfback.
For sure.
So, yeah, it could be a thing I want to look a bit closer at, because I still am not comfortable with Trindle, but I don't hate it. But it's just his average 55 last year, 52 the year before. Every other year he's played has been between 42 and 56 averages. So there's been no great, reason to really think he can do a great deal more. Only I think that the new club and good attacking players around him could benefit. So, yeah, I don't mind that one.
Let's talk about Braden Trindle, why we do have him in our sides. I think he was there because the price, and I know what he can perform. But with Braden Trindle, 439,000, he's based on a 43 average. In the first 3 rounds, he averaged 62, and that was with goal kicking without Nico, so I'm scrapping that completely. He averaged 45.57 with Nico, so that's 2.57 points value, which I know on face value is not a great amount of value, but take away the first 2 games. So he was pretty much chucked in there because Moylan was sacked because of his defence. He was chucked in there. The first 2 weeks, he got 20 and 16. They're absolute terrible scores. In 80-minute games after that, he averaged 57 with Nico in the side. And them first 2 games where he got 20 and 16, by the way, was Penrith. That game where Penrith just dominated that first half and McInnes made 97 tackles. And the other game was Manly, where Manly came back and won. So a 57 average at the back end of the season for Braden Trindle. Full preseason at 5'8". Last preseason, Matt Moylan was training at 5'8", so we know what Braden Trindle's role is a lot more now. With that good draw, Nico, we think Nico has the good draw. Warriors, Bulldogs, Tigers, Canberra. I think Braden Trindle could benefit just as much from that draw than Nico can.
Yeah, maybe not tons, but at his price point, still getting some juicy scores. I can see some 60s and maybe the odd 70 there. Probably a 40-50 to start the season, maybe a 30. But, yeah, I like the idea of him, 28 games at halfback for an average of 54.
He has a big ceiling at halfback as well. He's not playing halfback, he's playing 5'8"
in the halves, so I've got in the halves, sorry.
Yeah.
Not just at halfback, but yeah.
But I remember having him one year and I had one trade left and Nathan Cleary did the good old thing, getting injured at the end of the year, or it might have been the year ago. No,
yeah, I remember. I don't remember when it was, but I remember you looking into him, but you didn't get him right.
No, I got Trindle, and Sean Johnson was out of the side, and Trindle went massive. He got like 130 one week, and it just saved all my head-to-heads that week.
He's a real handy little footy player. He's got that little run sort of in his game as well. I really think he's got good attack in him, so I think he's a SuperCoach friendly guy. Nico's probably going to really sort of be very dominant in the side. He does, because of him floating as well. It's not like it's just exclusive when the ball goes to the left at Trindle's, but at the price, I don't think he's going to lose money. I think it could be a good thing. I don't hate it. I just sort of kind of feel like I want to maybe see if I can find something better.
It doesn't feel like a slam dunk. I know that, but looking into the stats, 57 average at the end of the year last year playing 5'8", only a preseason, running in that system, running the same shapes. It's only going to help him. And I think I was looking at the stats this morning and it didn't really click to me, but reading it out loud, I think at that price, I like him a lot more than these other guys. So Jaden Sullivan's the next guy. The Tigers do have
Just before we press on, if you can, just with with Nick, this Nico and Trindle sort of balance, I sort of try to reach out to Amand. So you've pulled up some stats. I don't know where you got them from. I couldn't work it out without having to go through every game. But he pulled up. He's got just last year 47 average, which was close to I think what you said overall in general for his whole career with Nico.
Yeah,
and then it was 54 without. So that's probably taking over that extra little amount there, which I think is 8-9 points.
Amand's would have been without.
He hasn't included. He hasn't gone through the year prior. He's only went through 2023.
Okay, so what he's done, he's included the first 3 games. That was without Nico.
Yeah,
and he's also included for the stats with Nico them first 2 games. So what did I say?
they were very similar stats.
45.57, just not far off. So I don't know where he's getting another few points from, but 57 take away that first 3 games. I'm pretty happy to pegging him.
You can take even 47. Hey, you're still probably going to make it not much.
No, a little bit of value, but
you can be patient. It can be a slow burn. He might get some other games where, Nico could get an injury and then he's a main playmaker and you got him and everyone else would want to trade him in, stuff like that.
I could expect him at a 55 average with the exception of playing some weaker matchups and getting some higher scores, which will mean you'll cash him out at a higher price than what his overall season average will be because you'll get that rolling average in. But another
thing I want to bring up, the duel. So if we weren't going to have we'll get onto Campbell, Jaden Campbell later. I've got him at 5'8", but imagine if you could afford to have Braden Trindle and Luke Brooks as your backup guys, and you could flick both of them around if need be.
I think it's one or the other with them, yeah.
And also, I don't know what I was going to say other than that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I like him a lot more than these other guys. So Jaden Sullivan coming in at 391,000 for the Tigers, has a bye round 1, so that's the number 1 red flag. We don't know where he's going to land, if he's going to land that starting spot. So if you start with him, it's an absolute risk. Like Latu Fainu could get the position and you could be stuck needing to make a trade the next week because they do have the bye. You don't get unlimited trades.
And he's got big raps on him, very exciting sort of player from what I hear. And Jaden Sullivan's very early into his career as well.
He is.
He's had 15 games in the halves for an average of 40. He goes up. He jumps up when he plays at hooker. He's only had 4 games at hooker, but it's nearly 60 average. Yeah. So it's nearly 20 points more. But they could easily sub that out. But I don't hate why people are going with him. I
get it. But last year, the games he played 80 minutes at half, 38.3 average. No, sorry. He's based at a 38.3 average, and the games he played 80 minutes at half, 43.9. So there's only 5 points value there. Yeah. So whereas Trindle, there's a reason why he's priced at where he is, and there's a lot more value there. There's 14 points value there, whereas someone like Jaden Sullivan, there's...
Yeah, he's 50k more, but he's got a lot more experience. It's his role. The great thing about Trindle too is compared to previous years, he was a fill-in guy. Now it's his role. I just think there's a bit of comfortable. I think not where you get comfortable, but I think it's your role. You can feel confident that you're not treading on other people's shoes. So
that's true.
Yeah.
But that could also be a negative because with Trindle, he's the kind of guy who will throw the cutout ball to try and get the try assist. Maybe he just buys into the system, throws the ball out the back to Will Kennedy so Will Kennedy can do the cutout ball, and he doesn't get that attacking.
I don't think he'll play too out of his skin. He's got great footy in, but I think he'll pick his moments. I don't think he's going to be too much of a ball hog and be a crazy footy player that's doing, balls into the sideline or whatever.
So Jaden Sullivan, the thing with Jaden Sullivan is he's only played a handful of games at halfback and 5'8", so there is potential to be had there. We can't just go off stats in the past. There is potential there, and like Trindle, the fact that he's got the position locked down, if it's the same as Sullivan, maybe he goes to another level as well. So
yeah, he had a mad game at hooker. I think it was Magic Round. And he was scoring. He scored a try. He was just looking really confident. I thought he was going to really progress from there. So maybe this could be the year for him. But for me, he's at a price where if my guy doesn't work out and he's killing it, I can just go down to him. So no stress.
Last halfback I've got here is Aiden Caesar at 345,000. If he does partner Jaden Sullivan in the halves, it's an interesting watch. One of these will goal kick, so it's a big watch in the trials. But from 2016, Aiden Caesar has only averaged 35, 42, 35 and 48.
Yeah.
But that is with no goal kicking because he played with Jared Croker, who was a pretty good goal kicker. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I looked at those average. I never remembered him being a SuperCoach option. Like the 35s and stuff. The price is nice. Like, it's a nice price where not much you can go too wrong. But yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in it. And I've just similar to a lot like those other cheapies that are around 300, like a Chanel, Harris, DeVito, those sorts of guys. Like, if they get a role and it works out, just go to them once their BE's, like a minus 50 or whatever, and the price is about to jump.
I'll tell you what my issue with him is. Usually when these players have a bit of time out of the game, they're discounted on what their average is. Based on the averages that are here, he's pretty much priced at if he played in the NRL last season. That's my issue. I think the only plus side is maybe he has changed his game. Maybe he's going to be more of a dominant half. There was Jack Whiten in 2019 when he played last and averaged 48, where, maybe Jack Whiten was the dominant half, whereas this side, he will be the dominant half. And he wasn't goal kicking, so there's also that added aspect as well. There's not much else a halfback though, is there?
Only if Luke Metcalf doesn't start for the Warriors, then Chanel, Harris, DeVito's at a super cheap price, 200 and something K.
He is too. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so that could be super nice. And he averages 44 in the halves. He's got 44 games and averages 40 when playing in the halves.
Yep.
So if he gets a go, then there's definitely value there. You know what I mean? You could make it probably at least 100K, a little bit more potentially. But I think Metcalf played really well last year, the back end of the year.
I think it's his spot.
Yeah.
Moving on to the 5/8s, and there is one standout option who is, I thought, was a clear standout option, but he's only 22% owned. We have had the app open for a week and a bit now, so this data should be quite accurate compared to the trends, but 22%.
Wow.
Dylan Brown at 780,000. What are your thoughts on him? Are you starting with him?
Yeah, definitely. He's the one guy I was hands down 100% keen on it, and I looked at Munster and I thought Munster could probably match him too, but Dylan Brown's the guy I like. Pretty much just because of the redemption year, making it up to his teammates and to the club for last year. They should have probably went into the finals if it wasn't for the time he missed, I'd say, due to his indiscretions. Just consistent averages over the last 2 years. He's really been a really SuperCoach guy over the last 2 years. 76.5 average last year. 2022, 74.2 average. The years prior, they were quite a fair bit down, 53 and 60, but he was a younger kid. He's sort of really coming into his own now. I think we're yet to see the best of him. I think he's one of those guys that'll have a massive year potentially this year, and if not, he's still got a lot more to show in coming years. He's got 4 tons in 17 games, 9 scores over 80 in 17 games. That's all pretty big. Only 5 scores under 60, which is in 17 games. He's got really good base. So 40. What have we got? Base 39 last year and 37 in 2022. The thing against the teams that he's coming up against, he averages 53 against the Dogs, 60 against Penrith, 74 against Manly, who he plays in round 3, 55 against the Tigers, 56 against the Raiders, and even when you go and look at some of his last games against them, no tons there in his first against any of these clubs. So he had 60 against the Dogs in his last game last year against them, 81 against the last time he played Penrith, 88 against the last time they played Manly. So look, I don't know that it's going to be a massive, like slam dunk, like how we feel as good as Nico scoring those, putting out tons. But I just think he's good for at least 60. I don't see him dropping much cash. If you hold on to him and be patient with him, you'll get the big ones. You'll end up getting that 75 average. Potentially just hold on to him all the way till the buys as well.
I think that's fine. Looking at the 5'8" position, I don't think any 5'8" on this list is captain worthy. Like, in my opinion, 5'8" is not a position where I think you want to spend a lot of trades this year. I think it's always good early on in the season to lock in your spine members, like two-gun halfbacks, two-gun 5'8s, two-gun fullbacks. I remember the year you won, I was doing quite well at the start of the season as well, and I remember just locking in them positions early was key that year. That was 2021 though, so maybe the trend has bucked a little and not needing to stack up these positions because it's not as high ceiling. Dylan Brown is someone who doesn't really get many tons, but we can get that 80 average from him. Cameron Munster, he's exactly the same player. He's got a ton in him, but does he have many tons in him?
Yeah,
not really.
True.
Not really.
So the first thing I thought when you said that is, like, maybe you don't need to, like, I'm still very keen on starting with Dylan Brown, but maybe you could just start with two sort of 500k guys, like the Luke Brooksy sort of guys at 5'8", as your main guy.
And start with Cleary instead. So swap Dylan Brown for Cleary.
I wonder how that balance goes. I might just have a play around with it.
I feel like a lot of people have invested a lot in Dylan Brown, and I see exactly why. Like, I'm on the same page. Redemption year. We're going off past seasons, though, Tim.
When you call me Tim, then it felt very serious. I feel like I had to go to my room or something. Or
No, but we're basing this on past seasons. Like, his ceiling hasn't been there. With the redemption year, we're not relying on last seasons. We're relying on what's to come.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time with SuperCoach too, you've got to back that sort of the guys like Munster, he's off the beers or whatever. Or
that year, I was so I was locked in starting with him.
Yeah.
Nothing was changing my mind. I've been the same up until right now with Dylan Brown.
Yeah, same. I haven't even. Yeah. The only thing you changed my mind is just when we looked at those averages too, and sort of went 60s, 80s, and then the fact that he's priced at basically a 78 average kind of thing, I guess, pretty close to that. He's going to need to sort of be doing his best at those 80s, or not his best, but having mad games still.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he doesn't even, when he does go big, he's still like when he's tons, they're not massive tons from memory.
But just think about it, like, I'm looking at his last few scores against his first three opponents. 60 against the Bulldogs, 134 against the Bulldogs, 44, 81 against Panthers, 47 against Panthers, 71 against Panthers, Manly, 88, 98, 58. I mean, there's probably there's 3, maybe 4 scores out of 9 scores there.
Do you really want?
That you want. Like, an 88's nice.
Yeah.
But when someone gets an 88, are you like, oh, I just want that, like, go on with it?
Especially when you've paid that much for it. It's kind of like, yeah, it's good. If someone else has gone an alternative, like I say, for Cody to start the year and Cody got a 40 and you've got a 80 or something from your guy, it feels like a massive win getting that 40 difference. And but if we're going with like a Dylan Brown, he gets 80, Cody gets, say, 65, and then some of the other options like Luke Brooks gets 60, you kind of like, I just would have just taken the 60 and sort of shifted the balance maybe a bit elsewhere. Or, I don't know.
Like, Jaden Campbell's my backup 5'8" at the moment.
Yeah, same.
Do you start him at 5'8"? Put KO Weeks on your bench. You've got another.
I'd want to go Campbell.
Campbell, Trindle.
And say like a
Trindle
or like a Luke Brooks.
I like Trindle.
But then I've got Trindle at half, but then you're saying we'd go to Cleary.
Yeah. The thing is with Dylan Brown, he's 780,000, so you are jumping up 130,000.
But how much more confident are you that... I know we've said that Nath can start slow and has those 60s, maybe 70s, 50. Do not yesing about to start the year.
That's only what? 20 points off Dylan Brown for the first 2 weeks, and then he'll overtake that the next 3 or 4 weeks. Oh, yeah,
but I'm saying that I'm more confident that actually Cleary will obviously start. I reckon he'll get more points than Dylan Brown to start the first 4 weeks.
You reckon?
Oh, fucking oath.
Yeah.
He's kicking goals as well. It's going to be a lot easier for him to set up tries. It's not like he just walks out there with like a fucking virtual reality set and he's just playing a different game while everyone else is playing footy, you know what I mean, for the first 4 rounds. So for him to set up tries, it's going to be easier than it is for Dylan Brown. He's got his hands on it a lot more, especially in the good ball zone and stuff like that. He's kicking goals. He's obviously more and he's a better player. So it's not like I'm making some sort of fucking world... revelation sort of news here, but yeah, I just think that I've got more confidence that Cleary would start better than Dylan Brown on average. I know you got to pay up for it, but maybe there is that you shift that balance. That's saying, well, like maybe you don't have to chew through too long now, but go back to the drawing book, have a look at, see how things balance out.
I'll tell you what that also covers as well. If you start with Hines and Trindle, they've got to buy in round 5. You've got to sort that out by round 5.
Yeah, true. That's awkward. That is awkward. But you probably would. I reckon you probably want to go to like... You'd naturally maybe want to go to Cleary by then.
Early enough.
Yeah. So not too much stress.
See, the thing is, if Brown averages 80 in the first 5 weeks and Cleary averages 80 in the first 3 weeks... Okay, no, say they both average 80 in the first 3 weeks. Who are you more excited to get? Like, who are you more rushing in to get after round 3? It's Nathan Cleary because you know that big 100's coming.
Yeah.
Whereas Dylan Brown...
Could go for a 60 next still.
Yeah.
So could Cleary on any given day too, to
be fair. With Cleary, like...
He sort of bruised and then it goes bang.
He doesn't take long to do them massive ones. Although last year... I mean, he's 912,000, but I still think he quite didn't hit his...
There's still the factor that he's like... 4 grand finals in a row. The fact that he's won 3 of them in a row, he still doesn't have that daily M. And he's like, I'm just going to have to hit the fucking ground running, get some boards on the, chalk them up, have some blinders to start the year because I know I'm going to be missing for a bit due to Origin, and I'm probably going to do my 4 to 5 week hammy or whatever my injury is for that year.
So I need to bank the points now.
Yeah, I need so he's got to really go hard. So he needs that daily M, bro. So
he'll get it.
Maybe that's a factor and on his mind too.
It's funny with Dylan Brown how we're talking about bounce back year. When we talk about fullbacks, my fullbacks are full of bounce backs.
I've got one that's bouncy.
Who?
Pappy.
You got Pappy?
Yeah. Wow. At this point, but I'm doing my homework as I go down. I've got these other players like in centre and fullback penciled in, but I haven't done my homework like I have on the other positions, so that may change by the time I get to the Fullback podcast. But at this point, it was just I saw a picture of him on Twitter of himself that he posted just doing a still of a run, which looked athletic, and I was like, fuck that, man, I want Pappy in my side.
Yeah, well, I've got Latrell.
He's pretty cheap. He's sub 700.
I've got Latrell.
Yeah, that's nice.
780. But the other one, Teddy.
Yeah, that's also nice too. But I'm going Ponga Pappy at this point.
I do like that as well. But let's move on. Cody Walker at 705,000. Honestly, I've got Latrell already, and I've already got Latrell in knowing he's got a pretty tough draw of Manly, Broncos, Roosters, and then what the fuck? That's 2023. Sorry. My bad. I was looking at the wrong year. So he's got Manly, Broncos, Sharks, and then he's got Bulldogs, Warriors, Sharks. Sorry, Manly, Broncos, Roosters, and then Bulldogs, Warriors, Sharks. So with someone like Cody Walker, I think I can't start with him because of them first 3 weeks, whereas someone like Latrell, I can overcome that. And it's nice to have Latrell leading into that round 4 onwards. But with Cody, I think especially just talking about how low a ceiling the position is, he's someone who really does... He has a high ceiling, but he really does rely on
putting AJ over for a few tries.
Oh, and also that softer draw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and like when it is a soft draw, that's usually when he smashes up and goes hard, yeah.
And he tends to start the season quite slow as well. 30, 44, 42 in the first 3 last year.
That's
he
yucky.
He averaged 49 in the first 4 weeks. 38 in the first 3. So I think it's a very similar situation this year where I think you just hold off Cody until he drops. In last year's case, he dropped 60K before he went up again. So
yeah, I remember last year I wasn't on him when he first started killing it. He was, I think, we were on Dylan Brown, and we're missing out on a fair few of his scores where he was beating Dylan Brown week after week. But that wasn't in the very start of the year. That was sort of like maybe like week 5 to 6, maybe on to 10 or 11 or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. Yeah, he's not someone I've overly considered just because I thought that if I was going to start with anyone other than Dylan Brown, it would have been Munster.
yeah.
And he's not, for me, he's always closer to the origin period.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Cody Nikorima's in at 592. I think he's probably going to start on the bench, so we don't need to really touch on him. But Tom Dearden, 592. I think if you're buying into Cowboys stocks, they've got a pretty good draw to start the year. They start with Canberra, Broncos, New Zealand, Gold Coast, Bulldogs, Dolphins, New Zealand, Newcastle, Sharks, Roosters, St. George, Tigers, Parramatta. Like, that's a nice draw. They don't play they play a top 4 side once in that whole time.
Yeah.
And last year, this similar time, we were banging on about their draw.
Yeah.
And,
Didn't help him though.
And look at their home games. 1, 2. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong year. Fuck.
You're looking at last year's one?
I'm looking at last year. Jesus Christ, I've done... So, Dolphins, Newcastle, St. George, Broncos, Gold Coast, Parramatta, Sharks, Penrith, Dolphins, Gold Coast, Souths.
It's a long run.
It's a pretty good run regardless. It's not as good as last year's, but nonetheless...
I considered him in my mind before digging into it, but when I looked over his scores, there's just... When you just scan your eyes on him, there's way too many 30s, 40s and 50s, and I don't want to be taking those. I feel like if I had him on my side, I'd be probably playing him. Well, I would be at that price, you know what I mean? So, yeah. The 30s, 40s and 50s for me, not good. I don't know whether that was mainly as a result of the team not doing well last year for a large period at the start of the year. If they have a good year this year and start off well, maybe those 30s, 40s, 50s turn into 50s, 60s, 70s instead of 30s, 40s, 50s. But, yeah, not for me to start unless I see him killing it.
I think he's definitely a mid-season pickup where he's got... when he has a nice run of games, because he's that type of guy who his average is the way it is because of them bigger games. And the fact that he does have that ceiling, I think that's why he is...
Well, he had that one big game of 179 against the Tigers last year. He also scored 118 against the Panthers, I think, which was in round 16. So it's a bit after Origin.
Yeah, it was after Origin. It was after Origin, yeah.
No, it's kind of in the period. Oh, yeah, but anyways,
no,
yeah.
Yeah, it was after. It was like when they... So pretty much after Cleary injured himself in round 14,
yeah.
Panthers didn't back up any of their Origin stars after that, which I think was a smart idea because they obviously won the comp. Yeah, so I think he's more of a mid-season pickup. But talking about redemption years, Jerome Luai. Personally, with the fact that he's coming back from shoulder surgery, like he's only going to be just good for the World Club Challenge, I probably can't go near it, but... I don't know. There's something screams like at some point of the year he's potentially going to be an option.
He just kind of turns it on sporadically and has like a mad game where he sort of sets a couple up, maybe scores one himself. I don't feel like there's enough consistency. Yeah, I just thought the draw was a bit tough to start to justify it. I thought his price kind of where he's at. He's sort of the high 50 average, you know. He sort of every year sort of gets about 58, 57, 59. So for 600k, yeah, no, not for me. But he can be exciting. I remember Desi Creek was going to pick him up near the bye period last year.
Well, yeah, Ryan Selvage did of SuperCoach 365. condolences to them lads. They've actually hung up the boots for their podcast. So actually, so have SuperCoach 360.
Oh, okay.
So Bergs and Juzzy, that they started the podcast, the video side of things for us. So shout out to them. And also, I was going to say the Whisperer retired, but he kind of came back. But yeah, a lot of podcasts are phasing out, but there's a lot coming in, isn't there?
Yeah, it's just like it's a circle of life, you know.
That's it. So no Jerome Luai.
Nah.
All right. There is one I want to talk about who a lot of people are kind of chatting about. I think 60 minutes through the grand final last year, you would have... I think... I remember you saying the week after, we've really got to consider this guy for NRL Supercoach.
Well, he was in my side up until just kind of recently. Before I sort of started doing my study on the halves, I just had him there because I was like, I'm just going to leave him there and pencil him there because I was so impressed by that grand final performance that if he can replicate some of that in general competition, just sort of regular season game footy, like which seems reasonable... Oh, fuck, man, he looks like a good thing. But, yeah, the draw put me off, I think. I think there is definitely some value there. I think, the averages just kind of...
He played 80 minutes every single game and only averaged 52. And he scored like 14 tries or something ridiculous.
He looks like a SuperCoach player to me,
He
but
does,
it doesn't.
yeah.
The scores don't like. I would think by watching that guy, he would be a guy that would be really handy. But yeah, just a lot of his averages, like against some of the clubs. I know he's probably a small sample size there, 1 or 2, 3 games, but decent against the Roosters, 68.5. But Bunnies 29, 43 against the Panthers, 24 against the Storm. 59 against the Cows. Like, they're okay, but I was hoping for a few more maybe spiked 60s or something like that. And when I just looked over his year, wasn't that fantastic. So
well, let's have a look. He scored 2 doubles for 82 and 76.
Yes, that's annoying. You get those two and you really want to sort of be like, bang, I got Ezra Mam.
I'm pretty sure in the grand final, his SuperCoach score only added up to 108 or something like that.
Wow. I wanted to find what that was, but I couldn't be bothered doing it. There was too much bloody side things going off. I had too many places I was trying to find different stuff. But yeah, okay.
We do have to wrap it up quite quickly, but we'll go through Jaden Campbell.
Yeah.
So gets a fullback position, does have a bye in round 2, which is a bit tricky, but I think the fact that 450k, he averaged close to the 60 at fullback when he did play at fullback 80 minutes. There's value there for me.
Yeah, I've just got that over his career, he's got 29 games that he's started at fullback for a 59-point average.
Yep.
He's priced well above his...
Yep.
So there's value there for sure.
And I just think he goes to another level.
Yeah, exactly. He's at point of his career. I think that, and the fact that they have, as we discussed on, I think one of the other pods maybe, that just shifting Brimson to the centres is really giving him that confidence or putting the trust in him that they believe in him. So yeah, I like that. I think there'll be some decent big ones where we're like, oh, mad, a 90.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There'll be the odd, 40, maybe a 38, but you just got to stay the course with him and let him make his money, I reckon.
His base was actually quite good last year. Like, I think his lowest score was 38 when he played fullback. So,
well, I've got over the 29 games, he's got a 28 base.
28 base.
Yeah.
But is that just base, like runs?
Just in base, yeah.
That's pretty good considering his size.
Yeah.
Like, you expect nearly single to tens.
Yeah, and he was taking more runs as well towards that back end.
And he's got the tackle bust ability as well. So we've gone over the cheapies who were at halfback, but there is a couple of cheapies here. Kyle Flanagan, 310,000. I mean, he came off the bench quite a bit last year, so I think that's brought his price quite down significantly. So, yeah, he came off the bench a lot in the last throughout the season. So 80-minute games, 60, 40, 24, 32, 27, 47, 55. And then he came back later in the year for a 66 and a 50. So
So he's got in the halves 77 games over his career, which surprised me. I didn't think there was that many, but he averages 44 when starting in the halves. So there's value there too at 310k. You probably wouldn't want to play him. I just see him sort of steering the team around a bit to let
Ben Hunt.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they don't have a lot there, so I think he will pick up attacking stats here and there. Like, he won't be an Isaiah Katoa of last year where he only picked up a couple of attacking stats.
Yeah.
Like, I think he'll pick them up quite regularly.
I don't hate it, hey. Like, if you want to just have that as your way to sort of fit some other things in, having 2-gun fullbacks, 2-gun halves, whatever it may be, if you had him at 5'8", he's only at halves, isn't he? In halfback only, or is he 5'8" dual? He's dual.
He's just 5'8".
Oh, he's just 5'8". Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he was going to pick up a dual eventually, won't he? You'd say.
Probably not. Probably not, because he'll be named at 5'8". So.
Oh yeah, so I'm picturing him with the fucking dogs from the next to Birdo for some reason.
He's at St George.
Excuse me.
We've got KO Weeks at 273,000. Ethan Strange at 238. I mean, Ethan Strange, if he's named, I think he's a centre. Yep. We can agree with that. We don't have to touch on that. But KO Weeks, in crucial position, I think I like Flanagan more than Weeks, but he still does have potential.
Well, the thing is, versus them, we've seen a pretty big sample size of Flanagan. I don't think we're going to be too shocked that he goes too much above where he's at in the past.
Well, the thing is with Flanagan, he played half of the season off the bench, so there's definitely value there.
Yeah, of course, but I'm just still saying that, like, he's over his career when starting, he's still only averaging 44. So I don't think we're going to be too shocked that.
Yeah, like, but that's still
starting at
14 more than what he's priced at.
Yeah, I'm saying there's value there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying we're not going to be overly surprised. We've seen enough of a sample size of him there. But with KO Weeks, he hasn't played a great deal amount of games. I don't think he didn't really pass eye test for me as a SuperCoach guy. So he's playing in the halves. He only ever played fullback, didn't he, when he was playing?
Yeah, last year, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's obviously a little bit of a different role.
Probably gets a bit more in tackles.
Yeah. It's just another one for me. If he does really well, I'll just go down to him if it looks like he's going to make enough money to justify it. But I don't think he's the guy I want to start with. He could be just a little bit annoying to get rid of if he just averages around that sort of 35, which I've kind of get the feeling he will.
Yeah. So thoughts, Campbell and Flanagan or Weeks to partner Cleary and Hines in your halves. So instead of having Dylan Brown there, have Campbell as your starter.
Nah.
Flanagan or Weeks as your backup.
Nah. Oh, but then you got Cleary.
And you got a bit of extra cash to deal with. We're talking about centre wings next week. A lot of people are going without a premium. And
yeah, I am. I'm struggling. I can't afford to even...
same. But I think you could use that extra cash to go to a Valentine Holmes.
Yeah, because, I mean, he was going all right at the start of the year, even though we all sort of started with him. He wasn't... We wanted more from him.
He was averaging 70s.
Yeah, we wanted hundreds and stuff.
I think I'd 100% take that to start the year, considering how the centre wing looks.
Yeah, and if you think he's going to have a better year to start the year, considering they were real shit last year to start off, then he can probably go up to 80. Then maybe you would want a guy like that. Or even like a Greggy. Margie's a lot, but, you know...
He's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
something to think about.
It looks yucky in my mind, but that's just with the rest of the way I had my team set up. But I'd have to look at it on paper. I don't really love KO Weeks, so or Flanagan, but they feel a very slow burning, and I'm going to want to try and upgrade them to someone that's going to be too much. It's not like I'm going to want to then just go up to a 400 or 500k guy. I feel like I'm going to want to turn those sub 300k guys into a 700k plus player.
I'm doing it as we speak. Let's have a look. So I've done the trades. I've got 230k in the bank. I've got Cleary. Campbell's my starting 5'8". I've got Cleary instead of Trindle. And now I'm upgrading. Yeah, I'm going to have to look at it. All right, cheers for tuning into this episode, guys, and we'll see you next week. We've still got to get around to the 2RF Q&A. We're getting to that. There's a lot of questions on that, so we'll get to that this week, maybe next week. But we'll put out a shout-out for the Q&A for the halves, or maybe we'll just do a general Q&A for team Q&A after for the whole
chuck
thing.
those in it as well, yeah.
And make it a full podcast. All right, cheers for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.